All right, it is Thursday, September 22nd. This is Lauren Cohen, and I'm here with
Joe Little. I'm the Public Relations Manager at the New York City Rescue Mission.
why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am 46 years old. I am married. I have 3 kids. I have been at the New York City Rescue Mission for 8 years. I enjoy my work. I like or love New York City. I've been here 22 years. I'm from North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Literacy, nonprofit work brought me to New York City way back when, and I still volunteer in that field a little bit. But I love coming to work to see here at the mission the changed lives that we see here at the mission. People struggling with drug and alcohol addiction, struggling with emptiness inside, really. That's the bottom line. Or hurt inside and struggling with that. And you hate to see the struggle, but you love to see the fighting the good fight and wrestling with that instead of giving in or falling down or falling away. So that's what we're all about here is on the one hand, blessing the poor, feeding the hungry, resting the weary, encouraging the hopeless. But we love to see the fruit of that, which is changed lives.
Did you always work nonprofit?
I guess so. Out of college, my first substantial job was here in the city, and it was nonprofit. It happened to be nonprofit. I guess I've always had a heart for, I guess, to look at my history, the underprivileged, the people struggling with illiteracy, and now the people struggling with empty lives, with hurt feelings, with hurt psychologies, and marginalized and marginalizing themselves and so forth. And I love connections. I love connecting with people and having authentic, genuine connection, and so I love to have the poor and the homeless and the needy reconnecting with society, with jobs, bosses, spouses, kids, each other on a mutually respectful way. So we have innumerable success stories here, and even the failures. They may be failures. They may be permanent failures. But so often the failure is temporary, and you'll see that so-called failure come back, and that's almost as rewarding as I had a guy today, Ulysses. I'll say his name, and we haven't seen him in a couple of years. He graduated from the program, but we didn't see him. But then he kind of disappeared after that, and so that's usually a sign, not always, but usually a sign of whatever, falling back, falling down. But he's back here today, and I said, as always, I hate to see you back here, and I love to see you back here, with almost the equal passion. Oh, I hate to see you back here. Oh, and oh, I'm so glad that you're back here. So it's very ambivalent, mixed emotions. But the bottom line is that hip hip hooray. It's like the prodigal son. Hip hip hooray. You hate to see the prodigal son do what he did. You hate that. It's terrible. But you love to see him come back.
Can you tell me a little bit about the services that are offered here?
The New York City Rescue Mission is America's first rescue mission, 1872. The founder was a nincompoop a ne'er-do-well, a knucklehead. You can be a smooth criminal. There are trillions of smooth criminals out there, rich, poor, and otherwise. But he was a nuisance, and he was a knucklehead, and his friends, I don't know about his relatives, his friends and acquaintances threw him under the bus. There was some crime that was committed. He had committed 1,000 of them, but this one he had not committed. And they said, here's your guy. All that's to say that he served time in Sing Sing prison, up the river, so to speak. That's where the term comes from. And while in prison, for various reasons and anecdotes, God turned his heart, just changed his heart. Again, he wasn't a nice guy, and he was a river thief. You know, just the dregs of society. But God turned his life around, turned his heart around, changed his heart. It was a miracle. There's a trillion miracles every day, but this is one of the ones that is kind of melodramatic. And Jerry McCauley, this guy, he was paroled a year or two later. It wasn't overnight. He still had his ups and downs. He still had trouble with alcohol, but he had a heart. He had a real, consistent heart for the lost and the weary and the broken, just like he had been. And so so eventually, 2 or 3 or 4 years after he was paroled, he had met up with a guy that was actually a future president of the New York Stock Exchange. So he was a well-heeled individual, and Jerry met him, and this guy said, well, I know where your heart is. I know what you want to do. You want to minister to these people. Here's a place. So Jerry and his wife Mariah, they set up the Helping Hand for Men, and partly because it was so mutual. You know, Jerry McCauley was one of the neighborhood, one of the lowest of the low, and just he still wore that on his sleeve a little bit. You know, you can't change your character too much. I mean, you're still the same person, even if your heart has changed. You're still. And so everyone respected Jerry McCauley, and when he brought this good news to them, it was remarkably different than kind of the looking down your nose at someone and saying, "Here's your good news. You're a bad person. Here's your good news." So the success was immediate and overnight. The people, the men, just came to the place. I mean, partly it was to get a hot meal, partly it was to get a bed. But it was a hopeful place. It was an encouraging place. It was a miracle place where people's lives were changed. They knew that Jerry had changed, and others changed like that. And the rescue mission sprouted up almost overnight, other cities and so forth. The rescue mission movement used to, now you have the New York City shelter system. There's 40,000 people, men, women, and children each night that get a bed here in the city. Now there's many more homeless than that, but people that buy in and get a bed, about 40,000. Back in the day, those 40,000, probably less, maybe more, were in the rescue missions. There wasn't a New York City shelter system. It was rescue mission, rescue mission, rescue mission. Dozens and dozens here in the city. And so that they had great success in changing, I think, in changing New York City some. It used to be, the Gangs of New York, that movie, that used to be the nature of the beast in lower Manhattan. And it's not that way anymore. You've had your ups and downs, and you've had your drug stuff and your drug wars and so forth. But things have changed. Things changed 100 years ago. And that he was part of that change. I'm convinced of that, where the poor and the marginalized and the broken and the potential convicts, the potential thieves and burglars and rapists and murderers, percentage of them, you'll have folks that will come here to the mission for a meal. And we feel like you could give your opinion as to our effect in this neighborhood. You've been here 1 or 2 or 3 years. 3 years, a neighbor of ours here in Lower Manhattan. I gather, I mean, I may be biased, but that we are a positive influence. Now that it's not the nicest thing to walk by half a dozen guys and you're a lady and they're eyeballing you or whatever. That's not the nicest thing, and they're smoking or whatever. We try to bring them in off the street and be a good neighbor to all of our neighbors, especially to New York University. So we feel like we have a civilizing influence. You come into our doors, there's no strings attached. You don't have to be a Christian or anything. You can be whoever you are. But you have to be civil. You can't come in here brandishing this and shouting this and hollering that. We want a safe place and a godly place and a loving place. So that's I think that I've seen that's the effect that we have. It's not a little slice of heaven or anything, I've become friends with a vast number of not just the residents in the program. Getting back to your question, we feed the hungry. We feed about 500 a day here. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. During the weekdays at 1 p.m. we have free meals free hot meals for the local folks from the local family court. If you're in family court, you're having a bad day. So many of the folks that are having a bad day in the family court are poor people. Not all, a lot. And they're down here in expensive lower Manhattan, and they need a break. They need a little slice of hope. We give them a free meal, cartoons for the kids, respite. And that's the nature of what we're doing here. We're giving respite and a little slice of hope, encouragement. But the felt needs are immediate and visceral. Folks are hungry, folks are weary, folks are discouraged. So 500 meals a day. The vast majority of them are during supper time. Maybe 200, upwards of 200. Breakfast time is about 100. During the daytime, we concentrate on the guys in the program. These are guys who are going through a residential recovery program. This is Bible-based. You don't have to be a Christian to enter the program or even to exit the program, but it's a Bible-based program, and it's akin to the 12-step program. It's a glorified 12-step program, and they're going through the steps, wrestling with it, with themselves, wrestling with each other, wrestling with God, wrestling with the past, wrestling with the future. So that's part of the rest. It's not just rest. We have 100 beds here. Rest the weary. Give rest to the weary. We have 100 beds here. About 25 of them are earmarked for the guys in the program. These guys live here, and these are my best friends in the world. I see them every day. They're transparent. You can't say, "Oh, I'm good," if you're living in a rescue mission. It doesn't work. You can say you're good. I can say I'm good. There may be some basis for that. There may not. Check our skeletons and our closets and everything. But these folks, they wear their vulnerability on their sleeve. And on the one hand, that's unfortunate. But on the other hand, I'd much rather talk to someone who had their guard down than to have someone who's got their guard up to here somewhere every day of the week. So I love chit-chatting and hanging out and shooting the breeze with the guys, lunchtime, just in passing. We work here at the same place that they live, so we're working in their house. They're living in our workplace, but really we're working in their house. That's the bottom line. We have had offices elsewhere on Broadway, consolidated a few years ago, and I think that's for the best, for the reason I just mentioned. So food for the hungry, rest for the weary, encouragement for the hopeless. Part of the encouragement is the counseling here. We have some great counselors. Part of the counseling is peer-to-peer, iron sharpening iron. So often we have a graduation ceremony for the guys that complete the program, and so often at the graduation ceremony, blue caps and gowns, the guys will say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, staff, this person, that person on the staff. And thank you, fellow residents. Very, very poignant when they when they thank each other, when they thank their fellow graduates. It's just very poignant because they have become brothers in arms. And that doesn't mean that they're going to succeed in life, whatever that means. Are they going to get a job immediately? Are they going to keep that job? Are they going to stay off of drugs? Are they going to stay off of alcohol? How long are they going to stay off? Are they going to stumble once? There's just people that say, well, what's your success rate or whatever? It's just so hard to quantify that. Our executive director, Jim Varnhagen, says we have a 100% success rate. Everyone that wants a meal gets a meal. So that's one superficial anecdote, but I guess it's true enough, you know. So the graduation ceremony is the capstone and a bit of a launching pad for the guys, and we do have a lot of folks that that do well and continue to do well and come back and volunteer, and I don't know if those are the exceptions to the rules. It's hard to keep track of a lot of folks. They graduated, they had a good time here, a hard good time here. They have good feelings about it. They're thankful, but they want to move on. And do you keep wallowing in it? There's just different tacks, different schools of thought. Do you come back and volunteer? Do you not? Do you move out of state? Do you try to settle down elsewhere and leave it behind? It's not a bad idea. We have an education component. We lots of computers, education director. A lot of our stuff here is chores. To run a mission, we have a $4 million budget, and that buys a lot of food.
Where does the budget come from?
We have about 80% of our income comes from individuals. That could be little old ladies at $5 here and $10 there, or that could be folks that give regularly, monthly. It could give someone that just gives a big donation. So that's 80%. Another 15-16% comes from churches, synagogues. The local synagogue here, Synagogue for the Arts, we're on very good terms with, and they'll come by and volunteer. But mostly churches. Corporations, foundations. We have a full-time foundation grant guy that's just sending out grant requests, and then 1 or 2% comes from the city, state, or Fed regarding food for money, food that's directed to purchasing, money that's directed toward purchasing food. And I never can quite get a handle on what percent. That's 1% of our budget from the city or the state, but I don't know what percentage of the food purchasing that is. I don't know if that's 10%, 20%, 30%. So one of these days I'll get a handle on that. Anything else? So yeah, a lot of chores by the guys, which helps us to keep going. The laundry, security, cleaning. A lot of clothing that's donated, and we have to process that and try to get it back into the hands of those who need it. So there's a tremendous amount of chores and chore work, but that's not just helping us. I guess of equal importance is that it's helping them to get back on track regarding a regular schedule, working hard at whatever it is, cooking. It may be in their wheelhouse regarding stuff that they've done before. It may not be. They may feel like it's beneath them. They may be a challenge for them. But things need to get done, and we try to do that as appropriately as possible. We have a tremendous number of volunteers that come in. New York University is unique in their two birds, one stone program. This is a program of food reclamation and distribution. As you know, perfectly good food every day from the cafeteria. It's going to go to waste. They grab it, keep it fresh, get it to the rescue missions in the area, soup kitchens that need it, as quickly and efficiently and as warmly, as friendly as possible. I've heard numerous occasions where it's not just the food, it's how they bring it, and they bring it with cheerfulness and cordiality and warmth. We have a tremendous number of, it's kind of seasonal, but we have a tremendous number of New York University volunteers that just come here, and the fresh faces are such a good thing. Young faces, but fresh faces, new faces that are interested. Again, that's a blessing. They walk in the door, the mission is accomplished. They could change their mind and walk out the door. They've already blessed us. It's too late. They've already blessed us. They can't take back the blessing. The blessing is already there. And so that's the long and the short, is with two basic audiences. One is the homeless and the transient guests, overnight transient guests. The big boss man has said, if a gun were held to his head and he had to choose between the recovery program and and feeding and resting the weary, he would choose the resting the weary. You know, the folks that are the last, the lost, and the least, and they're really the least attractive, because it's cool to serve women, children, the elderly, handicapped. That's kind of cool, sort of. But how about a man who is perfectly able to work and isn't, for whatever reason? That's not very cool. And you know, what are you going to do with that person? Well, you can ignore him. You can wish him well. You can different schools of thought. We're trying to help him where he is right now, and trying not to be a crutch, but also trying to encourage him to change, and mostly through this engine of the folks coming into our program and changing, his friends and acquaintances that are changing, that he sees changing, the modeling, and he sees it right here in front of him. So often we'll have folks that you wouldn't think would finally come into the program, and they finally do, and then they finally change, and it's nice to see.
Do you provide services to help graduates of the program after they're here?
We do. We do and we don't. We have a limited budget. Hey, John. This is our education guy.
Hey.
Lauren is interviewing me.
Hey, Lauren. How you
Nice
doing?
to
I
meet
heard
you.
like interview questions with the great Joe Little.
The great.
The great Joe Little.
That's actually part of my name.
He's very humble. He doesn't let too many people.
I'm so humble. It's remarkable. You can.
Well, it's hard to be humble
when
though,
you're perfect in every way.
every way.
You can listen in and take notes.
Yeah. No, I gotta go.
You're good. John is our education guy, and but back to the. We used to have an aftercare program, a guy that was devoted to that, and we had cutbacks, and it was after the tsunami 6 years ago, and we, you know, we did well to make a budget last year, you know, 2 or 3 months ago at the end of our fiscal year. So we would love to have the additional resources to have an aftercare program again. But we have alumni, volunteer, graduates that will come in and counsel the guys and work with them, and so we have some anecdotal things. Chief of the resources and benefits to graduates is that they can keep staying here at least 3 months. There's kind of a 3-month period of as long as you don't start causing a stink and you know, just start being a knucklehead. You could. I don't know what the rules are, but I gather that you don't have to do much during those 3 months. You could, should, ought to be doing X, Y, and Z regarding looking for work. Now, after those 3 months, you know, it becomes much grayer because we want them to get back with their jobs or their maybe education, but overwhelmingly jobs. You know, being sustaining themselves, being self-sufficient. But generally, if you're looking for work very diligently, very obviously, or if you're working and saving your money, you can continue to reside here, because we want that. We want you to do well, and we want you to transition well into back into society. And in our graduation ceremony, we will invite prominent donors, prominent supporters, prominent neighbors, even to do the little ceremonial welcome back to the neighborhood, welcome back to the community. You know, you've got to be fearful. You got to be anxious about it. Welcome back on behalf of the community. Welcome back, and it's ceremonial and it's very short and sweet. But that's what we want the guys to feel, and it's hard to feel that because they have shot themselves in the foot. They have shot others in the foot in society, in their communities. So it's a worrisome thing to go back into the real world. It's hard to live on the streets. It's hard to come into the program and humble yourself, and it's hard to go back into the community. Life is hard.
How did
But God is good.
Well, let's talk about religion for a little bit. Why don't you just talk about religion?
Talk about religion. I think I'm pretty close to the. We're a non-denominational place. We're you could call us a church. We're a religious 501c3, religious nonprofit organization. And so on the one hand, we're a church that meets the felt needs of the poor in its community, but on the other hand, it's a soup kitchen, homeless shelter, food pantry that brings the good news into the mix. Either way you want to look at it. As per our founder, Jerry McCauley, and the fact that he was the executive director, but was also, you might call him a graduate, we've had in our DNA this whole notion that all of humanity, all of us, are more broken and more rebellious than we think we are. I think some of us are in touch with that are just miserable with ourselves. But we're also at the same moment, at the same time, more loved passionately. Not some kind of zim baba dim, passionately loved by God in our misery, in our brokenness, in our rebellion, in our sinfulness. And if that's a mystery, how can that be? How can that be? We think that it's possible because of the sacrifice of Jesus and his kind of taking our place. So that's the rhetoric, that's the rationale, that's the kind of how it kind of sort of makes sense, and that we can serve the poor mutually and know that, good grief, I need to be in here too. So many people walking around here would do well and would be blessed to come into the program, because we're all empty inside to some extent. We're all filling it up with TV or music or drugs or alcohol or family or relationships, or it's just endless, the things that we're trying to fill up that hole inside of ourselves. So religion, so God, but a God who is much greater and more exacting than we think, and yet more loving and merciful and striving after us than we could ever hope for. That's the nature of the religion. We don't wear it, in spite of me wearing it on my sleeve a little bit right now. We don't wear it on our sleeves. We don't open the meal time with prayer, other than the guys in the program, in program. The folks that are transient guests here, I don't think I've ever heard the maybe once or twice, you know, for a special occasion, we'll say the blessing before a meal. But I've never heard the blessing said before the meal for the transient guests. We just don't want to bang them over the head with it. They've been banged over the head enough that day. We want to give them hope. We'll wear the gospel and the good news, some of the Bible scriptures. You'll see it in our chapel. It'll be up on the wall, as it should in a chapel. But again, people are weary and they're have had hard times, and we don't want to bring this. You know, Jesus, whenever he was harsh with someone, it was the high and the mighty who thought that they were all that. Those were the folks that he was harsh with, not the broken and the weary and the down and the out, the down and out. So you don't get the harshness here because we don't have the high and the mighty here much. Although, an anecdote, we were just coming off of the 10th anniversary of 9/11. September the 11th, 2001, you had the rich, I don't know about the famous, but the rich and the well-to-do were fleeing northward from ground zero in lower Manhattan. Dust and dirt and fear and chaos and shock, and they came by our place, many of them, and they came into our place, many of them, needing to a shower or needing to call someone. Their phones weren't working. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go. And we prayed with many of them. We fed many of them that day and in the days to come. So that was an example of reversal of fortune, and where we saw the high and the mighty and took care of them. Our poor, well, I wasn't here that day. Our poor took care of them. The guys in the program took care of them. The guys in the program are generally overwhelmingly poor, and they were taking care of the well-to-do who had a great misfortune that day in the Twin Towers. We do see the high and the mighty at our great Thanksgiving banquet. We invite them here. We love them to come here and serve the poor. If they come here, overwhelmingly, that means that they have a sweet disposition. They have a sweet heart. They have a little bit of a heart for the poor. Overwhelmingly, they're not just mugging for the camera. The great Thanksgiving banquet, the Monday before Thanksgiving, we serve about 1,000 meals to the folks from the New York City shelter system. We send out buses, bring them here, and they have a great time. It's live jazz, famous volunteers, great food, gift bags at the door. We take them all the way back to their place. That's a very high-profile event with some of the well-to-do that we want we want them to see our work. We want them to support it, but even if they don't support it financially, we want them to support it with their face and their presence, and it's success, immediate success, and to see the hugs and the kisses and the autographs and the photographs and so forth is very very sweet, and so we feel very good that we're blessing the external community. We're not just receiving those at our door that day. We're reaching out and bringing them to our door. It's very similar to that event is the Mother's Day banquet, the day before Mother's Day. Same deal, fraction smaller, but same deal. And in the recent years, we have, I guess my baby, this would be my baby, Super Bowl week. Super Bowl week, soup kitchen, Super Bowl week. Okay, there you go. There's your event. And so we've invited famous chefs from the community. New York City has 1 million famous chefs, and 1 or 2 or 5 of them should come here and and either serve or cook something or whatever, bring some soup or whatever. And that's what they've done in the last few years. The cameras accompany them, of course, and famous, New York Giants will send stuff, and representatives, players. Mark Gastineau has been here numerous times from the Jets. So it's really a festive occasion, in spite of it being a homeless shelter, in spite of it being the poor and the needy. It is a good time, and it's probably our third most high-profile event, our most recently created event. But it really captures the whole weekness. Thanksgiving, we have what we call Great Thanksgiving Week, is proclaimed by the mayor. Great Thanksgiving Week. This is the kickoff to Great Thanksgiving Week. And then you have what is it, Thanksgiving on Thursday? Yeah, you have Thanksgiving on Thursday. Just kidding. And then Mother's Day is similar. We have created a whole week, and it's basically our banquet, and people are doing other things that week, and then mainly it's Mother's Day. But we have what we call Metro Moms Week. Metro Moms Week. Well, there you go, Metro Moms Week. So we have the proclamation from the mayor. It's Metro Moms Week, featuring the Mother's Day banquet at the New York City Rescue. Happy New Year. And then similarly is Super Bowl week, proclaimed by the mayor. And the mayor has been here one time, and the mayor had never been here before. So we feel good in recent years that we've had a sitting mayor serve with us and have a good time, and continues to issue proclamations on our behalf. Mayor Dinkins comes here tremendous number of times. Kathy Lee Gifford, before his fall, Anthony Weiner. We've had the president of Manhattan Borough and president of Brooklyn, and we have had Chris Raggy and all the anchors and the reporters, and so all the local TV stations. WOR is a big, huge supporter in terms of their on-air personalities and coming here, talking about us, so forth. So those are good times, and those are high-profile blessings to the community, but also ways to get the word out, and to also to bring in money. People will support us in those special events. Although the fall is our big fundraising time generally.
I want to return to the story that you told about September 11th, because it's a very powerful story. You said the high and mighty came in here and they were served by participants in your program. Have you seen or heard from the people who came in that day?
We haven't, but we have. There's one guy in particular. Good grief. And yeah, here's a letter from him. If I hadn't received a flyer that morning, good grief, you're asking about it. Here it is. If I hadn't, this is Alex Zablock. He's I think he's a Republican, which is, you don't have many Republicans here in Manhattan. He happens to be a Republican. I guess maybe in the Twin Towers there were more Republicans than usual, because it's a fairly wealthy place. He says, and so 9/11, several days ago, he sent this card. If I hadn't received a flyer that morning offering me shelter, water, and a place to go, my life may well be different today. Your kindness, love, and passion to help others was something I will always remember and be thankful for. So I think that there's probably a lot of people that have that sentiment. He's just vocal about it, and he's been here and has talked to us about his experience. So that's just one anecdote. I mean, that day we were not interested, I gather, I wasn't here, we were not interested. If I had been here, we probably would have been more interested in getting a photograph, or getting an interview, or getting email addresses or whatever, but that's good or bad or whatever, but that day they were just concentrating on helping. So, the folks were helped and left, and we gather that you'll have someone occasionally that will be volunteering here, and they're just a volunteer, and then all of a sudden we find out that they were here that day. And so, it's hard to say. It's hard to say how many people still live in this area that were helped, that have been by here, that are donors, that are volunteers, that forgot about us. And I don't know whether it was hundreds that we served, that we helped that day, or just scores. But I know there was at least scores, scores and scores of folks. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm curious how working here has impacted you, and we'll return to religion in a little bit, but how you've been affected by working in this facility.
I'm a Christian, but just because I'm a Christian, just because I'm religious, doesn't necessarily mean that I have a heart for the poor. I didn't necessarily have a heart for the poor, the homeless before this. Although I did have friends that were homeless. I did, if a homeless person, if a beggar was nice enough, they became no different than anyone else who was nice enough to interact with and to befriend or become acquainted with. So I would have homeless friends that were, friends that were homeless, either friends or close personal acquaintances, whatever you want to call them. And one in particular was, I can't remember his name, but he was in the Columbia University area, and all of a sudden, I'd see him for weeks and weeks and months, and all of a sudden I didn't see him. And a buddy of his, I said, well, where is, yada yada, have you seen yada yada? And he said, oh yeah, he was arrested. He's the yada yada precinct. And so I went over to yada yada precinct, and I said, I love the cops. The cops are great. God bless the cops. They have a hard job. But I don't look like a common criminal. I came in there, and I don't look like I'm up to no good, but they gave me a hard time. I said, I'm interested in yada yada, and he's a friend of mine. He's a homeless guy, and I heard that he was arrested. Well, who are you? It was virtually, who do you think you are, if you're not related to him? It was just breathtaking. But all that's to say that's kind of one anecdote of someone who not only, not everyone would go, I don't wear that like, as a crown, who cares? But I did have enough interest in him to go looking for him. I doubt that I gave him more than $3 in my whole time with him, experience with him. I doubt that I gave him that, but I gave him lots of face, lots of time and interest and friendship. And I don't think I've ever seen him again. And I suppose he's, well, either somewhere else in the city or still in the Columbia University area, maybe, or maybe he's in jail. I don't know. But it wasn't a tremendous offense. Whatever it was breaking into a car, or nothing heinous. But when I came here, I had even though I'm wearing a blue collar today, I have a white collar job, and a white collar job with blue collar, not even blue collar, what's below blue collar, homeless folks, and we have a monolithic homeless population here, blue collar or below that. How are they going to treat me? I'm walking around like with a tie, and so I had some apprehension, not much fear, not much worry, but are they going to make fun of me? No one wants to be made fun of and to be joked. But I was very impressed with, especially the guys in the program. I was impressed with how warm and friendly they were with each other and toward me immediately and thereafter. And so that's one population, but even the transient guests, I don't see them as much. They come in here at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m. for supper time. That's about the time I'm fixing to leave. But even they have become friends, and I know many of them, several of them by name. And I think I continuously surprise them. I'm not trying to, but I do, by just stopping in my tracks and giving them not just the time of the day, but more. And the more seconds I'm giving them, I'm confident that I'm blessing them And well, that's what is it with anyone. You know, you say, "How you doing?" "Good. How you doing?" And then when you pass, and that's the way we do with 1,000,000,000,000 people each day. But when someone stops and takes an interest in you, that's seemingly genuine, that's they're not out to get something, not out to fix you or something, that is a blessing, and it edifies you. It builds you up, and it does something for the person that's doing it as well. So that's where I've changed, is just being even bolder, even more courageous, even more empathetic to the poor and the homeless and the stinky. You know, let's call it what it is: the stinky, the lazy, the ornery. So many of them are those things. And some of them I say, hey, I'll steer clear of this. I can't glad hand every one of them hundreds. I got to get home to the wife and kids, you know. So there's not enough hours in the day to do everyone justice and mercy. But it's been an enlightener to deal with the homeless as a monolith, and to live to tell the tale, live to tell a tale, and to tell many tales of these folks, and they're just folks, but they're wearing their hardship on their sleeve, whereas the rest of us, by and large, wear our frustration and our stuff inside, you know.
You said something very interesting while you were speaking. There's two things I want to talk about. First, you said you had homeless friends, and then you corrected yourself, and you said, I have friends that are homeless. Where does that come from?
Where does that change come from?
Why did you correct yourself?
Well, because I don't have, I guess you have Jewish friends, and you have Christian friends, and you have poor friends, rich friends, but you don't go around calling them. I guess sometimes you do, but I try to. I think we as a society strive toward not labeling people and putting people in a box and so forth. So, it's idiotic for any of us to say that we have homeless friends if we don't label everyone else other things. Then that makes for a situation where you don't have any friends. You just have rich friends, poor friends, Jewish friends, Christian friends, Muslim friends. But do you have any friends? Do you have any friends? So yeah, so that was just, it was a semantic switcheroo that I would do for in any of those other categories as well.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was the attitude of the types of people that come in here. Do you find that there's a different attitude, personality, determination between the people in the program and the people who just come for meals and to spend the night?
Very little difference. You know, in life, you'll have at any job you'll have colleagues that are knuckleheads. You'll have colleagues that are manipulative, that are lazy, that are striving and will step on you, or are lazy and will throw you under the bus. And it's the same with the homeless. There are homeless folks that are expect you to do this, that, and the other thing for them, or why haven't you done it already? And it's not up to snuff, and it's whatever. And there are others that are deeply appreciative, and there are some that are just hurt, and they can barely look you in the eye. And that's the same way with colleagues and with parishioners and folks in the supermarket. Boy, New York City is full of that, isn't it? Where folks that can barely look you in the eye and barely give you the time of day, even in the nice parts of the city, you say hello or hi, or and in the elevator in your own building, and you say good morning. You hold the door for them, they don't say a single word. What the? Where's the civility in that? You're not going to say good morning. You're not going to say thank you. You're not going to say okay, whatever. So the homeless are the same way. Yeah, I guess it's just a crystallized version, because there's no grid there for them. There's no grid to hide behind. They're right here at our door. How was your day, Bob, the homeless guy? You know, you can't say how was this, how was the job. You can't reference much with them. Sometimes they do have day labor that you can reference. But less grid, less things to hold on to, less reference points, so that it's more telling. Whatever the feeling is, whatever the psychology is, which is in the general population, basically the same way. You can hide behind the grid, you can hide behind the reference points, you can hide behind the touchstones and the camouflage. Whereas it's just harder to do as a homeless person, and therefore it's harder to it's more of a, it's more, I wouldn't say friction, but it is less cushion there if you're working with them and seeing and dealing with them. You have to create cushion. You have to create, I don't know, you know, talk about politics, or talk about the news, or talk about the weather. Well, those clouds are crazy. Well, I'm telling you, well, that rain today that was crazy rain. That was a lot of rain that we had yesterday. Boy, you don't see rain like that. Boy, that rain 2 weeks ago, was that rain? Irene, boy, she was something. I'm telling you, boy, that was crazy. So, you know, if you strive to create some connection and some cushion, some safety, safety nets, and some safe environment for connection, then it works. But some folks, it's harder to break through that. But again, it's the exact same thing as, you know, some folks out here, you know, you can interview them, you know, try to strike up, I'm interviewing regarding da-da-da that just happened. And they just look at you cross-eyed rather than to talk to you. Now, you are pretty, you are a girl, so most guys will talk to you on the street as an interview, and I suppose even ladies, you know, by that same token. But if you were a guy and you were going, you know, you were trying to interview, it would be, you know, you get more of the cross-eyed, get the heck out of. And you'll see that with some of the folks that are giving out flyers and they're trying to get you to sign up for the petitions. They got all the cute, handsome, young, college-age folks, and that's what they should do. Is, you know, you want to lead with handsome, charming, and sweet. And you don't get much of a handsome, charming, and sweet in this line of work. Top of the day to you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
David, Lauren, David. David is our Director of Operations.
How are you?
Lauren is from New York University and is interviewing me, the Grand Poobah. The Grand Poobah. Thank you very much.
She must be desperate.
Desperate, very desperate.
For interview
Very desperate.
characters.
Very the character.
He is a character.
Get out.
Noticed.
Get out. Go to your room.
Go to your room. Bennett, how you doing?
I'm curious. I'm curious if you had one graduate or non-graduate who affected you in a way other than you expected.
There's a guy named George, and he's a regular here. And I could show you a picture of him. He was at our graduation ceremony. We try to pack the house, the chapel, for the graduates, and to have just tons of interest and tons of buzz and pizzazz. But it's not nearly as sexy an event as serving the poor. You know, I mean, you would think it is. I think it is. But it's hard to get folks in for the graduation ceremony. I guess it's really very bittersweet, and throws into high relief the bittersweetness of it, and even the nature of their going back out into the community. You know, here we go, we're going to even that fear factor. But George, as a transient guest, he's a I've seen him for a few years, and so Lord willing, I'll see him today. He's a short fellow. He's a relatively chubby, bit of a Santa Claus. He's a very sharp fellow, very personable, and he has he was skittish at first in my little. I knew him and we'd get along, and we had a bit of an emotional connection there, but he was wary of me, as he should be, regarding my I'm also the guy that brings in the media. I'm the guy that brings in the microphones and the cameras and oy vey. And puts hats on people, but he'll stick his neck out in spite of that wariness. He will let me interview him. He will let me photograph him, or get him in a photograph, or get a quote from him. I mean, there's a little at stake for him in terms of embarrassment regarding relatives or friends or whatever. He's far removed from that that scenario, and he's an older man. I'd say he's 55. And he'll work out in Las Vegas sometimes. Not sometimes. There will be a season or two where we won't see him because he's out where he's working. He's working out in Las Vegas, and then the jobs disappear, and he'll come back here because this is his home area. And boy, there's a picture of him the other day that just capsulizes. Before you leave, I would like to show it to you. And this is the shot. The picture is George with his face directly toward the camera, but he's looking. Oh, whew. He's got the most joyful grin, smile on his face, and he's gazing basically into the eyes of one of the graduates, and it's just it's indicative of George and the fact that he's if you just glanced at him and just didn't get to know him at all, you would know and say and know that he was just benefiting from our services, and he was just he must be just a sluggard, he must be just kind of a whatever, and but he's a blesser, and he was blessing. It was that photo captured it in high relief, threw it into high relief, the blesserness of George, and the blesserness of so many of the homeless here. They not only do they bless the staff here, they bless me, but they bless each other, but they bless the volunteers here that are serving them. You know, it's the usual story. Well, I got more of a blessing by serving them. Well, it's true, and not just because you felt good, but because the people were returning the favor and were blessing you back with their smiles and their mutual fondness. You know, they were not keeping you at a distance and thinking you were, probably here for the cameras or here for them make yourself look good. So yeah, George, I would dare say that George. I'm trying to think if there's any other. There's always an endless array of folks like George, and I can call them by name. But George, he just keeps popping up as a first among equals regarding again, you don't want to put the homeless in a box and go, oh, the homeless can be good too. Well, it's just absurd on its face. But if there's any truth to that rhetoric of the homeless can be good too, or nice, or beneficial, George is a walking, talking example of that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. He took a bow at that point. Joe Little took a bow.
I'll be sure to write that.
Yeah, right, right, right.
And you seem to have really found your place here.
You know, you get to know anything. I have, and if I'm working here 20 years from now, that'll be a good thing. But aside from being the PR director for Youth for Hitler, that would be a hard sell. Youth for Hitler. PR director for Youth for Hitler, or cigarettes for children. I'm the PR. Thank you for smoking. There are some things that are hard to sell, that are hard to empathize with, and to project, and to market. But so many things in life are. It's just an endless array of these shoes. I have 2 boxes of shoes here that were donated to the mission, and there were a tremendous number of shoes, and so they offered some to the staff as well. And you could look at those shoes and find out about who made those shoes, where the rubber came from, where the disc came from, and you could find 100 stories there of people that cared about their craft. You could get misty-eyed about that if you paid attention to it, if you looked into it, and if you looked at the efficiencies and the care that went into it, the thought, the personalities, the people, and the history. You could get misty-eyed about dang shoes. And so, on the one hand, yeah, I have the best job in the world. But on the other hand, if I'm not here 20 years from now or 5 years from now, that'll be okay too. Because I worked in literacy before, and was there 15 years. I've been here 8 years. So it's a relatively short period compared to my last job. But yeah, it's a great place to be. A very good place to be. I look forward to coming to work every day.
That seems like a very good place to stop to me. Do you have anything you'd like to add before I stop recording?
Check out our Facebook, NYC Rescue Mission, NYC Rescue Mission. We love folks to like us and like us and like us and like us. So I'm a big fan. Facebook is so cool because it allows us to show the videos and the photographs, but also especially the videos. The snippets, people volunteering and getting to know the staff people. What do you do here? How long have you been here? It's the same thing. The histories and the passions and the transient guests and the graduates and getting to know a place and a people group. New York City Rescue Mission is a people group of people, including you today. So I could interview you today. So we love people to that doesn't mean if you like our page, that doesn't mean you see every video or every people have lives to lead, and you don't see everything of any Facebook site unless you're just an addict. But if people see a little snippet here and a little snippet there, then that's good. So if your interview lends itself to that, Twitter's okay. but Twitter's not Facebook in terms of the visual. Really, Facebook is the face and the visual, and so it lends itself to getting the word out about our faces here at the mission.
Well, thank you so much.